Here at Helmuth Ford, we are a small town dealership with no hassle and no pressure.
Style Me Crazy is a boutique store at 115 South Main in New Sharon. Boutique hours are Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Get fast, free shipping on orders of $150 plus, and they've got hundreds of styles to choose from, plus beauty items, accessories, shoes, and more. Go to StyleMeApparel.com for more information and to see all that they have to offer at Style Me Crazy. Follow Style Me Crazy Boutique on social media or stop in person at 115 South Main in New Sharon. The Watch Your Fire and Rescue Soup Supper is Saturday, January 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. The menu is chili, potato, and Wisconsin cheese soup with desserts. Delivery is available within Watch Your city limits. Call 641-660-2239 or 641-224-5250 to place your order. It's the Watch Your Fire and Rescue Soup Supper this Saturday from 5 to 7. The Keokuk County Expo in Sigourney presents the Faster Horses with opening act Neva Alden in concert Friday, July 18th at the Keokuk County Expo in Sigourney. The Faster Horses are your one-stop shop for both kinds of music, country and western. If you like high-energy 90s style country music, you're gonna love the Faster Horses. And Neva Alden is one of the best up-and-comers on the Iowa country music scene. And don't forget about the third annual fair kickoff cook-off on Saturday, July 12th. It'll be here before you know it. The concert at the Keokuk County Expo in Sigourney on Friday, July 18th.
I got a new computer for Christmas. So. All right. Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. I want to thank Zach Tremmel. It's been a while, but Trevor, we talked last week. Trevor's out this week with work. I think he's back in Virginia this week doing training and stuff, so is what he said. So I want to thank Zach. Game tonight, so we're kind of in between that time after school before the game. Good luck tonight. How's your team doing? I guess we should do that. I know the JV team's doing pretty good, and that's the one your son's on, but how's the varsity team?
Yeah, the varsity's playing good. I think we're 7-4. We've lost 4 really close games, all games we could have won. Struggled to start and then always seem to make a comeback. Excited for the second half of the season. I mean, we've got some talent, and if we can put it together, we're going to be a tough team to beat. And like I said, the JV team, freshman team are both playing well as well. So it's been a fun year so far, and weather's been great. We haven't had any cancellations, and it looks pretty good here. So
yeah, I'd say it's just looking
a ton of games in January. So hopefully things stay that way and we can get them all in.
Yeah, that's what I start. Obviously, I do a lot of junior high stuff, and after break they switch between the boys and the girls. So I've got a week off this week, and then but next week I start, and it's almost every day. So going forward, January and then most of February. So let's transition to Iowa State basketball. We're going to start with that tonight. We will get all the football stuff, but number 2 in the country, no surprise with Tennessee losing and Auburn continuing to win. With the only loss I would say has a 2-point buzzer beater loss to Auburn. So until Auburn loses, even if Iowa State continues to win, I don't see a way where Iowa State's going to get to number 1. They're not going to jump Auburn. I don't think there's any way until they lose. And if Iowa State keeps winning, which this week is a tough week for Iowa State, in my opinion. One surprising, there was no first place votes. Duke had a first place vote, Florida had a first place vote, and then Auburn had all the others. A little surprising there. I don't know if there's any Iowa people. I would assume there's some Iowa people that vote in the AP poll that you would think maybe they would, just because it was a last second shot. Iowa State's been playing really, really well. I know Saturday they had to come back, and Iowa game they had to come back, but they've risen to every occasion. Still undefeated outside of that one loss to Auburn, undefeated in the conference. So I know you love basketball, and I know Iowa State basketball is much more in your wheelhouse than Iowa State football. How much have you watched Iowa State, and then what do you think of them, what you have watched of them?
Yeah, I've seen, quite a bit. I wasn't able to watch Saturday. We had a game that day, but our AD had it on his phone, so we were kind of watching the end of it, saw it go into overtime, and then he was reporting scores for us. But They got everything. They can play any type of game you want to play with them. I mean, if you want to go big, they'll go big. They got guards. They got, probably the best sixth man in the country that comes off the bench. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to get to number one just because of that Auburn loss. But if you watch the game, Iowa State just dominated them in the first half and kind of melted there for a while in the second half. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I think they're both in line for, even if they collapse a little bit, they're going to be 2 seeds. College basketball is wide open. That's the thing about it. I mean, Iowa State could easily win the Big 12, win the tournament, and then they get beaten in the Sweet 16. How do we look at the season? And was it a success, or that's what there's so much emphasis put on that tournament. But Iowa State's positioning themselves to be a top seed. They would probably be the number 2 overall right now, and they win the Big 12. That's arguably the best conference, them or the SEC. So they're doing everything they need to do right now. I think they got to stay healthy and take care of business in the tournament. But they show that they can win multiple ways, and they've won the close game so far. The Tech game was huge. Texas Tech's a tough place to play, and they were kind of dead in the water and were able to fight back. And those are the games they're going to have to win. Probably one of those in the tournament where they're down, and then they're going to have to probably win 2 close games. That's just kind of how it goes, unless you're like UConn last year where they just kind of clobbered everybody. But I don't see a UConn in the field this year.
No, I think you kind of hit on it, and then Trevor and I have talked about it. They have everything you need to win the national championship. Now, whether you do or not is irrelevant. The tournament's a crapshoot. Health-wise, you never know. But they have, and you hit it, they can play every way. They're in their best when they're in transition. Gilbert, if he has the ball in his hand in transition, can finish on almost everybody. And I think he travels some. He got called for that more Saturday than he ever had. And then they have the good enough shooters, and that's the one question mark. If they can hit threes and they get in transition, they will win the national championship. But if teams can make shots and have dead ball turnovers, if they do have turnovers, and Iowa State has to run offense when the defense is set, that is when they're a little bit vulnerable, and they're going to have to hit some shots. But they do have guys that can. They just maybe haven't as well as you would like. You need Nate Heisey to hit at a better percentage. You need Momcilovic to hit at a little bit better percentage. Lipsey has shot better lately, but when he's open, he has to knock him down. And then Curtis Jones, who 6th man of the year, he's in line for being conference player of the year. And has that ever happened in any type of conference? The conference player of the year comes off the bench, but it's just an agreement. He started the first game of the year, had 5 points. I think they just all sat and said, well, that didn't work. And so he's obviously playing at the end of the game, playing second, third amount of minutes. He's a starter, just doesn't get his name called.
Yeah, they've got everything you need. Their guards, I think, like you said, Lipsey's got to be able to knock down the open shot because good teams are going to probably force it into, the last shot will be when that shot clock's running down. That's the guy they're going to leave open, and if he can knock them down. But the guards push it. They play defense. They got bigs they can bring off the bench. They've got everything they need. Again, it's just how it is in the NCAA tournament. It's such a crapshoot, and
right.
They could get knocked out in the second round. We hope they don't, but that's a thing where it just happens in the tournament. But they have the pieces. I think health's going to be a big thing. I do think they'll stumble a few times. Going on the road in the Big 12 is just too hard to win. They did. As far as at home, I don't see them losing more than once at home all year. And if they go undefeated, I wouldn't be shocked. But going on the road, I could see them losing once or twice.
I was looking at home because I was at that Baylor game a couple of weeks ago, and they talked that, Tinsley never lost at home in his 2 years. They didn't lose last year, and they haven't lost so far. So I was just looking if, Gilbert and Curtis Jones, if they're in that, have a chance to. Obviously, tomorrow night, Kansas, looking forward to that 6 o'clock start. I'll be there. It's going to be awesome. Obviously, that's, coin flip type game. I do think Iowa State's a little better than them, especially at home. I think when Iowa State goes to Allen Fieldhouse later, I expect Iowa State to lose that game. But I do expect them to win tomorrow night. But again, if they lose, it's not the end of the world. And then they've got a stretch where they're playing some not good teams, but then towards the end of the year, they have BYU at home and then Arizona at home. They don't play Houston at home at all, so that's good or bad, however you want to take it. But those two games, just on paper, look to be the most difficult after tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they go 3-0. I think they'd win 2 of them for sure. But
Right.
yeah, tomorrow night would be a fun one. I mean, Kansas comes to anywhere, they're going to have the place sold out. I mean, they're tenting out on Sunday night, getting ready for this thing. I mean, in 0.
Yeah, they're not even in school, which
Yeah.
makes it really kind of boring because it's not like you go to class and rotate. I mean, or you have more fun that way, I guess. You don't have to go to class at all. I don't know. They're nuts.
It'll be an exciting game. I mean, Kansas is no slouch, so I mean and Auburn, just like Auburn, I think Auburn's going to slip up a time or two, and it's just who's going to slip up first. If Auburn does it, then Iowa State can at least get that number 1 ranking for a week. Would be nice to have it just to say you've been there, because not every program can say they've done that.
Yeah, as we said, this is the first time they've been number 2. They've been number 3 like in the 50s, I think, with the Rolling Rocket, and then obviously last 4 or 5, whatever weeks it's been. Then let's just kind of transition to college basketball in general. Duke is really, really good, and they're the team that beat Auburn. That's what's kind of crazy. You got 1, 2, and 3 that they haven't played each other, but they played the round robin. So if you say Auburn's number 1, well, Duke beat Auburn, so is Duke number 2, and then Iowa State beat. And that's why Iowa State's not getting those number 1 votes, is they didn't play. They haven't beat another team that's nearly highly as ranked. They do have the Marquette win, which is a top 10, and that's why tomorrow night is so important to get that win. And then I think going forward, they have a case for getting a few more number 1 votes.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, as an Iowa State fan, you'd probably want them to do it like college football this year for basketball. I'd give Iowa State a heck of a chance at winning it all when you can eliminate 60 of the teams, but that's just not the way it is. But yeah, you look at Iowa State, Auburn. I mean, Florida looks really impressive too, just by watching them, the way they manhandled Tennessee. I wouldn't count Kansas out. I don't think the Big Ten has a team good enough to win it all this year.
But I was seeing they might get the most teams in the tournament though, because they're just all kind of mediocre. Because Iowa has jumped back into the tournament the last week or so with their wins. They're like the last 4 in. I think I saw it today.
I mean, they kind of bounced back after that Wisconsin game, but I don't see if they got a team in the Final Four, I'd be shocked. Even in the
this will be the year Izzo gets there or something. I mean, it's
good. But I mean, Illinois is playing pretty good, but then they just lost to USC, so who knows? I would be shocked if it doesn't come out of the Big 12 or SEC or Duke. I mean, those are those 2 conferences are Duke. Somebody else, it would be a kind of a minor Cinderella run, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Anything else with Iowa State? Again, just do you think Gilbert? This was a discussion they were having. I don't know if it was on a podcast I was listening to or what, but who is Iowa State's best player? And then who's their MVP? And then who's their go-to guy at the end of a clock? And they were making an argument for 3 different players. Like the most valuable player on their team is Lipsey because he controls it all. Their best player is probably Gilbert, but the guy you want to make the shot at the end is probably Jones.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to have. I mean, I think Gilbert's probably the best player. I would agree with you on that. I mean, he made some really clutch plays, and were they in Hawaii or Alaska, wherever they went?
He played on
a
show. He was after Hawaii. If there was a vote, he would have been player of the year. I mean, he played unbelievable in Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean
and then I think
good players, and the other guys are slouches.
And I think Jefferson, the 6'8", 6'9" point forward ish, what he can do with the ball, he just puts the other team in such. What do you do if you double team him? He's good enough to pass it to anybody. Then if he's 1-on-1, he's strong and he can finish. And then the best thing he does is he shoots free throws. That's what won the game the other night.
Yeah, I mean they've got. I mean like I said, I think their biggest thing is going to be health. I mean they are one team that could probably afford to lose someone and still stay in the mix, but you just don't want to see that when you've probably got your best team you've had in years, and you're right there to beat anybody. So hopefully they can stay healthy. I just think as far as his coaching, it's just the offense has gotten so much better. I mean, that's what his
Well, there's
defense
better.
has always been good, but he couldn't outscore. I mean, eventually you're going to have to outscore some people, and he's figured out a way to do that and got players that he needed to make his offense better, and that's what makes him so dynamic right now.